Hi, I'm with Student Loans. You owe us $50,000. But let me tell you something. Today, if you sign this paper, I will completely forgive all of your debt. That means you don't have to drive a super old car. You don't have to drive your parents' car for the rest of your life. You don't have to pay for student loans until you're 99 years old. Sign this paper. So, I need you to sign it like right now. Come on, I need you to sign it right now. You only have a few seconds. Come on. Signature's right here. Okay, let's be realistic here. You would not answer the door to someone that claims they're from student loans and that they're going to completely erase all your debt. This document, I don't even understand it. Like, really. And they're just telling you to sign? That wouldn't work for student loans. So why in the hell did it work for forced sterilization, especially within Canada? Come on, Canada, let's get our shit together. Really? Did this really happen? So, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an exercise to show you that this exercise is nothing compared to what women faced when they were forced to sign for forced sterilization. There were women that were academically illiterate that couldn't understand. They couldn't read what this said. There were Hispanic, and this is Hispanic women I'm speaking about specifically in Los Angeles. Sorry, I should have said that in the 60s and 70s. There were Hispanic women that spoke Spanish. They didn't speak English. They don't understand this. There are Hispanic women that you're in labor. You're all in labor. They're all in labor. Who in the hell is going to stop for 5 seconds and read this, and you don't even have time to consult with your husband, with your family, with your friends, nothing. You just want to get this friggin' baby out, Like, just come out. Like, you've been waiting 9 months. Let's go, It's hurting. So, if they wanted to have that baby, they needed to sign. You're all hyped up on drugs because you want to have a baby? You're going to sign and you're not going to be fully coherent. This is the reality for women that lived in Los Angeles, specifically Hispanic women. So the first documentary that we watched was No Más Bebés, which in English stands for No More Babies. This was the reality for a lot of women. Essentially, they would go to have a baby at the LA hospital, at the Los Angeles hospital, and they'd get to the hospital. The doctor and the doctor residents would say, "Okay, you know what? We're gonna have to have a C-section, and we need to do it right away. You need to sign this." They were given no time for it, nothing. So they ended up signing it, and little did they know, when they came up from having their baby, they were forcibly sterilized without their knowledge. And the hospital kind of covered their ass by getting them to sign this. And took advantage of them. So what essentially happened was the government was claiming that there was too many babies, healthcare was just super nuts, not enough doctors, blah, 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 blah. And they focused on sterilizing Latina women because they were marginalized within society. So they had intersectional oppression because they're women, they are of a different race, and they were viewed as socially having a different social class. So those three things made them oppressed because they were not white, because they were women, and because they didn't have the resources that middle class, higher class level individuals had. So the government kind of viewed them as having a big family, having all kinds of babies. All they do is have babies. They're on welfare, and the government shouldn't support them having children, etc., etc. Absolutely terrible. But of course, the Caucasian older men will tell you that oh no, it's not about race, that's not what it's about, blah, blah, blah. I'm offended that that's what it's about. But we won't go there today because I could vent on for quite a few days about that. So, in a nutshell, that's what that video is about. It's about following women in their stories. The second video that we watched was the forced sterilization of Leonie Muir, I believe her name is. So her story was essentially that she was marginalized. she had intersection depression because she was a woman. She came from a low-class family. She was assumed to have a disability. So all of those things kind of worked against her. Her parents abused her and left her at the institution in Alberta. It was called the Institution for Mental Defectives. Are you kidding? Come on, Canada, what the hell? So anyway, parents just left her there. And because at the time in the 60s, 70s, again, with, same thing within California that we'd heard, and it's so close to home, like what the hell? In the 60s, 70s, Canada actually had an act, and I believe it was in Alberta. Alberta had the, oh my goodness, it's at the tip of my tongue here. It was the Sexual Sterilization Act, I believe, or something like that. And under that act, a huge classification of people would be forcibly sterilized. So essentially, if you were not Caucasian, if you were not middle class or higher class, if you were not heterosexual, if you were not able-bodied, then you'd be forced to be forcibly sterilized because you weren't society's, perfect person, regular person, blah, 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 blah. So it kind of talked about her experiences, and now she's a huge advocate for trying to make it, to criminalize forced sterilization. Sorry, I don't know where my mind's lost. Forced sterilization. So it was a really interesting documentary to watch, and it was also kind of sad because the videos kind of discussed about how women had a hard time coming forward because during the 60s and 70s, it was a really big expectation that women be wife, mom, work in the home, have babies, things like that. And a lot of women that experienced forced sterilizations actually didn't tell anyone because they were so embarrassed that they couldn't do the one thing that they were, quote, meant to do. So a lot of people didn't even tell their husbands, which is actually kind of sad. So in terms of new information, because I was actually quite interested in finding out what's going on in the world and if it's still happening. I actually learned that even today, I think the recent document that I found was on CBC News, and it was January 1st, 2019 or something like that. In Canada, Indigenous women were forcibly sterilized, with residential schools, etc. And currently there is a movement for Indigenous women, and they're trying to criminalize forced sterilization. They've got support of lawyers. Actually, they even have the support of the United Nations right now. The United Nations is examining some reports on forced sterilizations. They're heavily involved, trying to make a change, trying to fix the wrongs that they have done. So again, if you are interested in this topic, if it's something that it really interests you, if you want to make a change, if you want to make an impact, definitely research it, look into it, because it's something that really affected a lot of women and still does because their experience lives on. And, it doesn't just affect that woman. It affects her children, it affects her grandchildren, things like that. So it's part of their stories. Especially when we were living in a movement at the time in the 60s, 70s. It was all about a movement of, women's rights, women's bodies, etc., etc. But we really didn't focus on the Latina community and the issues that they were having and that they were encountering, that they were suffering from. So now in 2019, as I talked about it, we're trying to make a change. We're trying to right what we've done wrong. So I want to leave you guys with a question before I finish. And my question is, now that you have all this information that you've gathered throughout this module, I want to ask you, how are you going to help educate others about forced sterilization? And how are you going to help female Indigenous victims that are suffering from the repercussions of forced sterilizations within our communities? Because together, we are one. We are all women. At the end of the day, we all need to support each other. We are a community, and we should never marginalize a woman based on race, gender, class, ability, age, etc., etc., etc. So I think it's great that we are trying to fix the wrongs that we have done, and I think that these documentaries are very educational and you can learn a lot from them. So again, if you have not watched the video, I won't tell on you. I really suggest that you do, because you can learn a lot from it, and it's really good knowledge to have, especially as a women's studies student. So I want to say thank you for watching my video, and I apologize for going a few seconds over. This topic I could talk about all day, and I could just totally rage. Took me a few tries to make the final video for this because I was so enraged, and I just wanted to go on a huge hating tip, but I figured might not be good for a school video. Anyways, thank you for watching my video. Bye!